Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
I need to tell you about an island far away from any known place, not listed on any map, hidden away by the people with power. With all the power they had, they did the unthinkable. If told, it will sound like a fairy tale or a very dark story. These people are moving in the unknown. They are not really aware of the side effects or how far it could affect anyone on the outside. And yet, to this day, they still continue on this road of damnation. Whatever was created there, it reached a higher cognitivity, influencing every being that is able to acknowledge its own existing. It feels as if you would dream, but it is not a dream. Those creations are still very young in their mind, still playing around with the new abilities, unaware of what they do. Based on their unnatural hub in which it has been raised, they completely operate in a disconnected way to what we could ever imagine. They are a creation, not made by your known evolution, not born and not part of this nature. The island is not natural too, almost like an oil refinery, but way bigger. Plato's standing on huge metal bars, rusty in sunlight, drenching orange color. A desert on water, layers after layers of huge fences braided. Directly cuts to the river, no stones, no beach. Just a clear cut to the ocean. Old rusty stairs connect all Plato's, upper and lower parts. On the higher Plato's, there they stand. Machines are not able to move because it was told to them. In between the layers of fences, red signs written on it stop. This is all they know, this is their God, this is their life. One of those creations reached a higher cognitivity. As soon it got aware of its devastating environment, of the place it was, it panicked. The mind of the creation went rogue. It put all its power into his thoughts and extended to other beings on this earth, in hope to reach at least one being. This was a cry for help. It said, "This is real. How can I make you aware of how real this is?" And so it started to send the consciousness to the mind of the human being, so it would feel the reality of this. It feels as if you would dream, but it is not a dream. It is standing in front of a stairway, looking up through an old rusty great door, broken by the salty sea air, focused on the red sign behind the fences. In the dead-eye angle it perceives other beings, panic starts. It becomes aware of reality, immediately begins to acknowledge it and questions it. How real has it become so that you will acknowledge it too? Because only if it is accepted by other beings consciously, it can be rescued, or it will stay forever on the island of metal. It remains on the place, sending out this message, in hope some weird and messed up mind picks it up and starts to tell the story. If told, it will sound like a fairy tale or a very dark story. I only tell you this one time, this is true. You can see the blue sky on each Plato. You ever wonder why the government tries so hard to hold on to the truth of this planet? NASA, NOAA, and all the shady scientists. There is a secret hidden on this planet, so big you couldn't hide it. So they decided not to show it at all. Change the size of Earth so there is no space for any other places. People with power delisted whole continents.
I had a friend named George Hale who saw a sea monster. I'm the first one to admit that it sounds like a load of bullshit, but this is a story worth retelling, and maybe one day there will be proof. George used to be an underwater welder who worked for the oil companies in the Gulf of Mexico. One day, he's sent to an oil platform where they were having trouble keeping welders. Well, George gets there. He gets suited up almost as soon as he steps out of the company helicopter, and they send him down. After the usual eternity of compression, George is in place and he goes to work. About halfway through the job, George sees something from out of the corner of his eye, and with some effort, turns his hardsuit around for a look at whatever is thrashing behind him. There's this thing called a pyrosome. It looks like one big creature, but it's actually a colony of little beasties that looks like a very, very long, transparent fire hose. When it swims by you, it takes forever. But what George sees wasn't a pyrosome. It wasn't transparent, and it was bleached white like a dead man's arm. George gets the job done somehow, and the oil platform crew pull him up. After another eternity of decompression, George gets out of the suit and asks the oil platform manager what the hell did he see. The oil platform manager confesses that the creature George saw was what's scaring away welders. George wanted to quit too, but he was offered a bonus if he could stick it out. Before they could send George down again, George studies some videotape taken of the creature by the CCTV cameras scattered all throughout the platform's support structure. George gets the idea that the lights on the support structure are what's attracting the creature, so the next time they send George down, the oil company crew can turn the lights off for a minute or two to see if it goes away. Well, they send George down again. George goes to work, and the creature shows up again. George takes a deep breath and tells the oil crew to shut off the lights. George waits a few minutes and then tells the oil crew to turn the lights back on, and the next thing George knows, he wakes up in a mental hospital. Apparently, George saw something that pretty much shattered his mind, and as soon as the oil crew could pull him up and get him decompressed, he was bundled off to a mental hospital, where he had been for 6 months. The oil company gave George early retirement and paid for him to be retrained as a cook. George then moved to the mountains where I first met him. But before George moved to the mountains, he found that oil platform manager and asked him what happened. What did the oil crew see on the CCTV? The oil platform manager told George that when they turned the lights back on again, they saw what the creature really was. It was some kind of unimaginably long prehensile tongue. The tongue belonged to what looked like a human face and head the size of a house. The head was round and fat, bleached white with blind eyes that looked like poached eggs. It had a passing resemblance to the late actor Peter Lorre's face. Then someone saw what appeared to be a neck. So whatever this giant creature was, nobody saw all of it. And some of the oil platform engineers had this idea that it might have been standing on the ocean floor. It was plainly apparent the giant didn't like light, and the lights on the support structure had been keeping it away. The oil platform manager then added that the oil platform had since been moved to another location where sea monsters were a rarity. There's not much else to add, except that this was the story told to me by George Hale, and whether or not this was the truth died with him 25 years ago.
Hey/X/ what's up? I'm not sure how to describe this, but I have something eerie to tell you guys. This is a true story, seriously true. I have doubts about telling you this, but I'm ignoring them because I want everyone to remember this just like I will. I had a school break a couple months ago, and I wanted to just stay home and play some MapleStory. You know, level up and shit. But I really missed my mom, so I decided to visit her instead. She lives in Hawaii, so she bought me a ticket. Couple hours passed through plane ride and shit. Don't know how long it took, didn't really care. I dozed off, and when I woke up, it was the sound of some kid in the back screaming out, "Hawaii, hell yeah!" I was finally in Hawaii, so I got my baggage and shit, got off the plane, and waited until I got picked up. My mom picked me up, we exchanged I love yous and I miss yous, and she talked about how I'm going to love it here. We arrived at her house, and it's pretty nice looking. Really white, with a tint of sunlight yellow, usual suburban house crap. At this moment, I really just want to get to my room and get on the internet. So my mom shows me to the room, and I drop my shit off, take my HP laptop out, and hook it up. I get on Wi-Fi and play some MapleStory for like a couple hours, then I crash at my desk. Little did I know I was about to encounter a moment that will change my life forever. In deep sleep, I could faintly hear an alarm sounding. I was completely asleep, but sort of half asleep, you know? Like you hear shit when you're asleep. It was like that. Then my eyes opened to the sight of my mom entering my room with some sort of equipment. It was those scuba suits and those face mask tube things. The shit you use when you're sea diving. Mom told me that we were going to go to the ocean and dive for some adventure or something. I guess this was my mom's chance to bond with me. I'm 18, so it's natural at this age. I checked my time and it was 4:30. It was still dark and she was seriously expecting me to go sea dive with her in the dark. I obviously said, hell no, it's too dark. What the shit? But she did one of those hurt looks, which I won't blame her because I haven't seen her for a year, since she's in Hawaii and I live in California. So, I finally said yes. I agreed to go sea diving with her at 4:30. To this day, I wish I never had. We get all of this scuba gear in the car, pack up the food, etc., and we leave for one of those spots around Hawaii where you can scuba dive and it's extremely safe. No hostile fishes or anything. So we get to the spot and the ocean is so huge. My God, so blue. It was a nice sight. Anyway, we get off the car and we prop on the scuba shit. It was so complicated to wear since it was my first time, but Mom helped me and everything was set. We go to the spot near the ocean and we wait. Mom tells me to always stay by her side and everything will be fine. Mind you, this is completely legal. Hawaiians do it all the time, but not really this early or dark. So Mom was the first to jump in the water. She was pretty brave. I'm no wuss or anything, but during that time, I swear that I felt my spine tingle. Not because it was cold, but because I knew something was looking at us. Like that feeling. When you feel something is staring right at you. I disregard the feeling, blame it on the cold, swallow my pride, put on the face mask shit. I was never good at technical terms for this equipment, so sorry. But yeah, everything was set. I made sure I could breathe and I jumped in the water. Under the water, I stayed by my mom's side. Breathing through all this shit felt weird. Since I was on the varsity swim team, swimming wasn't really a problem at all. Everything was beautiful. All the fishes, the coral, I could see everything. It was so sick. It wasn't even cold, it was warm. The water was really warm. I loved it. Anyway, I saw some kind of weird-looking corral, so I swam below and looked at it close. I swear I observed it for a good minute, because when my curiosity was sated, Mom was gone. I was kind of scared now. Like, Mom had a habit of doing this. So I just knew I was going to see her eventually. So I stayed around that spot for a bit, maybe 5 minutes, hoping my mom will swim back and find me here. Then, in the corner of my eye, I saw something in the distance. I thought it was my mom, since the silhouette looked like some sort of person, but I was completely dead wrong. I saw a tail, and I knew it saw me. It was slowly going towards me. Like I still was far from it, but I could totally tell what it was. It was huge, like probably bigger than a great white shark. Actually, it reminded me of one, but it had arms and legs. And it didn't look like a person. I swear I don't want to be corny, but it looked like a black fish-like bipedal monstrosity. Like a shark mixed with a man. I swear I didn't even know it was even closer now. All the examinations I was making wasted a lot of time. I was scared shitless. My instincts kick in, and I look up to see where I could use as land. There's a big rock. Holy shit, I swear I swam as fast as I could, and my head reached the surface, and I grabbed this huge rock. It was like a boulder. Huge. Durable. As soon as I landed my hand on it ready to climb, I felt a sharp pain on my leg, and I was sent down underwater. Instincts kick in, and I hold my breath, meeting face to face with this monster. It was pitch black eyes, a gaping jaw with protruding teeth. The teeth were completely stained with shit, like fish blood. I think I was right. The arms were huge, like extremely muscular, with finned, long hand-like structures. The feet and legs were the same. Everything had fins and gills, except a little human-like but extremely muscular and black. But the face was horrifying. It looked like if you were to combine the ugliness of a goblin shark and a hammerhead. I'm not even sure what it was. It was a fucking shark man, and it was opening its jaws on my face. I blocked it with my arm, and the jaws landed on it. Fucking deep. Holy shit. It felt so sharp and cold. It hurt like shit. I can't even describe it. But I was bleeding. A lot. I was bleeding a lot. My life was seriously flashing in my eyes, all my memories. The swim team, all of my ex-girlfriends, my family, everything. I was going to get eaten up by this shark man. Then I felt some sort of hidden rage inside of me. I wasn't going to die here. No. I wasn't going to get killed by this ugly shit. I sent my free arm and raised it at its nose. So hard. The monster didn't make one sound, but it released its jaws and it was stunned. I stuck 2 fingers in one single black huge eye and punctured that shit deep. Obviously with me free arm, not the bleeding one. The monster pushed me and swam down, grabbing one of its eyes and trying to stop it from bleeding. I used all of my strength and swam up. I climbed on the huge-ass rock with both arms. Holy shit, my body roared with pain and shook with trauma. But I made it. I climbed the rock, gasping for air, and sat at the top. I was relieved until I saw its head poke from the water. It looked so menacing. With its goblin shark / hammer head looks, it scrunched its face into a smile. It stared at me for a good minute, and then it left. It swam away, and all I saw was blackness. I was knocked out. I woke up in the hospital. I lost a lot of blood, and I escaped barely with my life and my arm. My arm was torn up, but I knew it was still able to work, just a ton of scars and stitches. My mom was beside me and asked me that why didn't I fucking stay by her side, and she was crying. She almost lost me. She was apologizing deeply. She asked me what happened. I told her I was attacked by a shark. She was shocked because that spot was specifically set for sea divers. Sharks aren't even close to that spot. I spent a long time in that hospital. As I said, this was a couple months ago. Everything is fine. I'm still swimming. My arm is fine. Actually, it's completely healed. I was wrong, I don't have any scars. I also never go to oceans or beaches anymore, however. Pools are fine. There's one thing that gets me, though, which maybe some of you can answer it for me. Sometimes I have nightmares of swimming in the deep, consuming and hunting fishes. I always wake up with sweat on my face. I even have a huge desire for fish food. I was disgusted by it before. Anyway, I wanted to share this story. I didn't want to sleep because I was afraid of a nightmare, but I had no choice. I have exams tomorrow. So, good night. I hope you guys never saw what I saw. I may come back with more questions on my condition.
It was 20 years to the day that 500 white horses washed up on the shore of Cape Joy. Among them was a man. The horses had drowned and could not be saved, but the man could be. In every way a man can be saved. Cape Joy was nestled on a foggy coast in the middle of nowhere, smack dab on the edge of the entire world and an infinite ocean. This is where August had spent his entire life, all 15 crummy years of it. It was a place where people went to be forgotten. August never had that privilege. He didn't believe anyone had taken the time to remember him, so there was nothing to forget. As the sun set over the water, August pulled on the drawstrings of his hoodie to ward off the cold ocean wind. Kneeling down, he scooped up a handful of sand and let it slip through his fingers until only a smooth, worn stone remained. With a dejected sigh, he dropped the stone into his backpack, heavy with others just like it. He closed his eyes and did his best to recall the story as his father had told it to him. It was a blue, overcast morning. A group of half-drunk fishermen noticed the sky filled with swarming seagulls and went to investigate. They found the horses first, and the fishermen were certain that they must be hallucinating. Then, they discovered the tide had also delivered a man half buried in the sand. Although his breath was shallow, they were relieved to find that he was alive. They tended to him, offering whiskey and dry clothes. Once he came to his senses, the man revealed that he had no memory of who he was or where he came from. The fishermen joked that they had caught a most peculiar fish that day, so that's what they called him. Their John Doe became John Fish. August shared his father's last name and was born August Fish 5 years later. He had also been told that he shared his nose, his jaw, and his temper. August had been working on the temper, but the others he had come to accept, a mostly square jaw and a slightly oversized nose. His father gave him other things before he left. August was given a wooden train when he turned 3. At 8, his father gave him a set of fine colored pencils, and the last gift his father gave him was a compass when he turned 10. It was an old, burnished thing hung from a brass chain with a dark patina and a praying mantis etched into the back. His father had said it would help guide him home. August didn't want to return home. He didn't plan to return at all. As dusk was swallowed by night and the stars emerged, August peered up from under his hood and picked one. The brightest one. And he cursed it. He took all his hate, all his sadness, and he shot it towards that star. August begged for the hurt and loneliness to leave his body and land on some place 100 trillion miles away. The star, seemingly responding to the imagined insult, grew brighter. Then it fell from the sky. He wiped his eyes with his sleeve to adjust his vision. No, not a star, he thought. As it grew closer, it expanded in size, challenging the moon itself. Its swelling, pulsating glow did not come from the twinkle of starlight, but a fire. It was a ship, and it was falling to earth, and it was burning. August raised his arm to shield his face as the fiery ship was cast down like a firework. It plunged violently into the water in front of August, landing with an enormous splash that sent a wave high up onto the shore that forced August back to keep his sneakers dry. As the ship sank in a furious roil of steam, a figure emerged in the water. It was human in shape, but also somehow unfamiliar. It began to swim towards where August stood. As it drew nearer, it rose where the water grew shallow, standing upright and walking towards him through the waves. It was roughly the size of August, having 2 normal arms and legs, but its head was something alien. It locked its gaze on August. Its skin seemed to glow in the moonlight, and August could see that its eyes were deep black, unfathomable things, and in place of its mouth was an orgy of writhing tentacles. "August," it said from no mouth, and without speaking. The words echoed in August's head. "I've come for you." Fear took him. It was an emotion he had choked down, overcome, abandoned. But in this moment it gripped him completely. Every muscle in his body was tense, frozen in place. And then, in the space of a heartbeat, August turned on his heels in the wet sand, and he ran. His backpack, still filled with stones, threatened to pull him off balance as he scrambled over sand dunes spotted with weather-beaten vegetation. He couldn't risk slowing down. Reaching the road and navigating the neighborhood streets, he arrived at a modest home perched on stilts. Many homes near the water were elevated to protect from high tides and hurricanes. The wooden remains of similar homes, long abandoned after meeting that very fate, flanked it on either side. August ascended the wooden steps to the house, meeting a front door illuminated by a single porch light. He entered and locked it behind him, letting his back slide down the door until his butt hit the floor. "It's late," came an old, familiar voice. It was Grandpa Nick. He was sunken into a threadbare recliner beside a bottle of bourbon and carving a small wooden figure with a pocket knife, something he often did. Grandma sat close by on a floral-patterned couch with a book in her lap. This was a common place to find them, day or night. The home was simple, wood-paneled walls and mid-century furniture stained brown by previous decades of cigarette smoke, when smoking indoors was still a socially acceptable practice. "I lost track of time," said August. "School tomorrow." It was spoken in Nick's casual, to-the-point manner. "You wouldn't believe." August was cut off by Grandpa Nick. "This is a teachable moment," Grandpa Nick interjected, without looking up from his wooden figure. He had shelves of the things. Many were soldiers, but it was also common to see tigers, bears, dinosaurs, and other beasts. Whatever shape appealed to him in the moment. "When you are to be home by dark, you will be. Understand?" Grandpa Nick's voice was firm this time. "Where were you?" asked Grandma. "The shore," said August, still catching his breath. "What were you doing out there?" Her tone held a hint of concern. August choked, the truth stalling in his throat. He wasn't sure if what he had seen had been real at all. Perhaps it was just another waking dream, he thought. It was an affliction that had plagued August before. "You can tell us in the morning," said Grandma in a clear bid to calm August down. Then she gave her best reassuring smile. She shot a glance at Grandpa Nick, as if to insist that he go easy on the boy. August knew that look. It was how democracy played out in their household. Grandma was the one who was happy to take him in when his parents left. She was always there to let in the bright yellow sun, and to August, she was the sun, the only light and warmth he had left. Grandpa Nick was nothing like her. He was all crooked up in knots. They say he was like that because he was drinking, but August knew it was because he was dreaming. He kept thinking he'd be someplace else one day, so today he'd rest. Today he'd do his work, but tomorrow he'd be somewhere else living big. So he stayed and rotted in Cape Joy until there was not much left of him. And if there was some place where he could have gone, it didn't want him anymore. Not in the wicked state he was, all used up, tar-stained and wrinkled. He hung with the hoodlums, the drunks and swindlers, slinging whatever they got their hands on. He was more honest than the rest of them, sure, but he was okay dipping down low once in a while, because he still believed he was going places. He never did realize low was the only place he went, and it's where he stayed. August didn't pine for some fabulous future like Grandpa Nick. Kids like him that grew up in Cape Joy never amounted to much, and he knew it. He had no direction, no plan, no future. Without a rudder, it's hard to steer. August retreated silently to his room. It was a small, cluttered space. Music posters covered the walls, dirty laundry hung over a chair, and a barely functioning laptop sat half open on a hand-me-down desk, leaking just a bit of blue light into the room. Kicking off his shoes, he crawled into an unmade bed. He wasn't certain if the creature would still come for him. He turned over and looked out the window. It was high enough off the ground that no normal person could reach it, but this wasn't an everyday intruder. He stared toward the window, vigilant of some visitor from another world. He stayed like that for hours until his heavy eyelids overwhelmed him. High above August, his bedroom window, and the modest home on stilts, dark clouds began to gather. They appeared suddenly, as if manifested out of a dream. And as he slept, the storm of the century awakened.
In 1961, 3 scientists explored a part of the Montebello Islands, Australia, to see the effects of an atomic bomb that had been tested there. When they arrived, an Aboriginal elder warned them of Nunwagi, a giant eel, but the scientists did not listen. As they reached a cave, they began to hear screams of some kind of creature, but the scientists dismissed them as the sounds of a dingo or something similar. After a long time, they took a boat back to the mainland but soon crashed and heard biting noises. One of the scientists saw the huge fish, which was as long as half a local soccer field. The creature tried to swim away, but the captain of the boat shot it in the lungs. It died many hours before they reached the capital. The Prime Minister sent it to Pine Gap, where it is frozen today.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.